Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed your break and had a snack and got any emails taken care of. I am very excited about our next session, one that relates to student motivation in the classroom. And this one is going to be a focus on practice operations management, gaming to motivate students. And James Abbey of the Mays Business School at Texas A&M University is going to lead you through how he uses this product and how he motivates his students, even in large classrooms at Texas A&M. And I am going to stop sharing now and hand him the ball so he can take it away. And James, if you want to say hello, he also has an amazing radio voice, I would just like to mention.
Yeah, oversell it. Thank you. This is actually the gateway drug into using Connect. So this was the defining element that made me actually switch over to the hybrid style of learning. Let's see if I can get my share going here. There we go. And it's interesting. So I got very excited about this, looking at it. I played it for a couple of dozen hours because it feels like a video game. And that really engages today's students. I don't know anybody out there. I know you can't talk, but maybe in chat, a quick yes. How many of your students do you think play too many video games? And maybe I'll get a report back from some. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I can actually see chat. This is great. Yes. And the good news is some students, obviously, not all will engage fully. Some will do what students do. They're like, oh, it's too much work. It's too hard. But a lot of students who I can't reach using normal pedagogical tools, lecture, will actually engage in the simulation for how many hours? How many hours do you think my average student out of 600 last semester spends playing this game? I'm curious to see how many of you have any insight into that. Anybody have a guess as to how many hours my average student? Well, that's kind of cheating. You might know, Harper, but yeah. Yes. Anyway, yeah. Well, okay. Some of you use it. Excellent. So I've seen students get through in as little as 2 minutes. I'm not sure how that's humanly possible. Then they email me saying, well, am I going to pass your class? And I go, no, you're not. But most of them, 5 to 10 hours is very common. And that's the actual competitive runs where they're doing 96 rounds of decision making so they can actually reach true steady state. Now, what I got a kick out of, some anecdotes. I've had students email me and ask to play this after the course is over because they want to beat their brother who had it the year before and they want to win. They actually get so motivated, they continue to play for dozens of hours after my course is actually over. The funniest one, my personal favorite, this just happened during COVID. I got an email from a marketing student. Marketing students don't tend to love this too much because it's a little too involved. There's math involved. They get into some elements of it, but they don't tend to like the whole experience. And she said, well, my father was playing the simulation to try it out. And he's a supply chain executive for a major grocery chain. Well, he likes it a lot. He said, I need to do all these different things. That can't be right. And I said, well, your father's exactly right. Not only those things that he named, but this and this and this and that too. All these things. And so she did the simulation. She did okay. Father emails me after the semester and said, finally, someone is doing something that's realistic and actually puts the holistic way business works into their class. So, one-off example out of, well over 1,800 students who've taken it for me. But I love that example where the father hijacks his daughter's email account to tell me how much he loves the simulation. And I really enjoy the simulation too. And again, it's a way to get students who might be otherwise disenfranchised. My finance majors are often like, this course is so easy. The math forecasting, geez, it's so easy. But the simulation draws them in because they're like, wait, I can win and have more money than other people? Yes. And so I actually do get some engagement. I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. So let's see, my computer tries to lock up with Zoom and WebEx. I'm hoping it survives. I can already hear it trying to overheat. I just love WebEx and Zoom. They're great. So what's the game's purpose? Many of you, obviously, since you have a guess as to how long it takes, and if you played it yourself, you know it takes a long time to really do it right. It's the demonstration of how the engine of operations, the core is what I've shown here, the shop floor, but everything else around it is linked, as we all know, and that linkage to human resources, to marketing, to forecasting, procurement, and logistics is something that I don't see in any other product that I have students do, at least not in a, I had fun. Oh yeah, I missed that chat. It sounded like something funny about finance students. I mean, we all like to make fun of them, I know, but I missed it. Oh, well. Yes, they can use it on their phone and their tablets. As a matter of fact, and it's kind of an oddity of the way it's programmed, it runs in a sub app on a computer. And so it actually takes up a lot of computing resources to run it, but it actually takes less on a phone or a tablet. Now, personally, with my eyes, playing this on a phone would be a disaster, but I'm over 40 now, so not seeing as well as I used to. I've actually played it on an iPad, and it was even better, in my opinion, than playing it on a PC. So they really like that, and a lot of students actually do play it on their tablets. But anyway, play begins. You get lots of practice modules. I'll walk through multiple of them here today. Things that the students have to do. They have to bid for contracts. They have to understand you're not going to win them all. They have to meet customer specifications, or they can choose not to meet customer specifications and take a ding in the market, lose profitability. They have to do, again, human resources, sourcing, production, receiving, logistics, all of it. And of course, as we know, it's all interlinked. But when we teach it, the students tend to look at component one. All right, procurement, great, yeah, whatever. Component two, okay, we ship stuff. Okay, got it. Component three, there's this bottleneck analysis. Okay, I got it. But they never put it together. And that's why I really like the simulation, because as we know in the real world, it all goes together, but students compartmentalize their learning. They don't put it together naturally. So anyway, at the end of the day, you have a lot going on here. You are in control as the instructor to a degree on the grading. So I use profit as the number one metric. Now you can do any ratios you want, but I use profit as the number one metric because it's the hardest. Customer satisfaction on time deliveries, it's a big one too. I really like that. I have a logistics background in my earlier days of research. High customer satisfaction, I put that in there because the marketing majors are like, my reputation is all that matters, brand equity, I've got to have it. And then you can do another one, which I often do as a crutch, which is, did you even try? Did you even complete it? I have to admit, I might remove that one in the future because I'm not convinced it's a good idea, because if you have that crutch and you remove it later, the students penalize you. So I'm considering dropping the, at least you tried it once, because some students, as I said before, try to get through this in 2 minutes and they learn nothing, and that defeats the whole purpose. So my attitude, go with the competitive metrics in the future, for me at least. Now, what are the departments? We're going to walk through each of these. Human resources, not near and dear to my heart in general, but it's extremely important. As a matter of fact, as costs go, it's the number one driver of excessive costs in your system. If you overstaff your system, it'll kill your profitability. Students have to learn that the hard way in a lot of cases. That's why I usually, for the competitive run, give them 3 separate attempts. Now, some students are ready to go. They have practiced for a month. They are good to go. About half my students, no matter how much I tell them to, never actually do any of the practice ahead of time. Then they're desperate when they do their first run, like, oh, how did I do so badly? Well, that's why I give them 3 runs, and you can control the number of runs. I give them 3 runs to get through the competitive play. Marketing, actually one of the most complex components of the simulation. You have management, you can actually hire people to make clients feel happier about themselves. It does have some influence, but the students have to learn not a huge influence. Forecasting is a big one. You should use that. Bidding for contracts, you don't win them all. You have control. How quickly are you going to ship? Are you going to price discount? Are you going to charge a premium? Does your reputation meet the client requirements? All these things interact just as they do in the real world. You can also, embedded in there, have statistical quality control both on procurement, inbound materials checks, as well as outbound logistics on the products you've made. It increases the amount of time you require for processing, increases your costs. The question is, does it really add value for the client? That's something that depends on the student's strategy. All of us know this one. Production line design. What machines do you need? What machines don't you need? Should you specialize in certain machines, which means you can only do certain products? Should you upgrade those machines? And hint, hint, yes, break-even analysis should be done right away, as I tell the students, and you absolutely should upgrade those machines you intend to use. Logistics and delivery, we'll talk about some interesting portions there in a moment. What do? I give them all the practice modules. We'll have a screenshot of the application-based activity in the next slide. Production process, the basics of how do I set up my production line? How do I actually make a master production schedule? What do I do in terms of prioritization of the products based on lead time? Managing suppliers, which is extremely complex. Actually, managing suppliers is deviously complex in the simulation. It's one of the areas where a lot of students get caught because they're not paying attention to what's going on. And I keep missing the chat because it's at the top right of my screen here. We'll try to catch up on those in a few minutes. Forecasting and contracts, again, this is where the marketing students go wild. Oh, I want to make this kind of product and this material really appeals to me. And I'm going, but does it make money? And they're like, money? Who needs that? I really like it. Oh, Okay, well, that's one way to strategize. Again, human resources, crucially important as a cost structure and an efficiency generator. And finally, the capstone, you can either do 50 rounds, which I believe is a little too little. It's not quite enough for the students to reach steady state, especially if they're not 100% certain in their strategy. That's why I use 96 rounds now. For the actual competitive play, it allows them to truly demonstrate a stable strategy in the simulation. Now here we go in Connect. You go into the application-based activity. You have all these different practice modules, which I highlighted very briefly. Production process, managing suppliers, forecasting contracts, all the way into one I don't use, which is the new branch, where the students are required to reach $50,000 in net profitability. Yes, you can assign, you can assign these individually. You can give them unlimited attempts, which I do. I have not actually used them for a grade so far. I've used them for a tiny bit of extra credit to complete them, more as a carrot, and then the competitive simulation, if you will, it becomes the stick. It becomes the challenge that you must do. A lot of the students, to my surprise, don't take advantage of the, oh, this is individual project. That's how I do it. Now, you can do anything you want. You certainly could make this team-based, especially if your student population is highly diverse in the sense that they don't have math skills and some do. You could make it a team-based project. Now, as I've told the students, I can't really stop you from doing it as a team in terms of sharing strategies, working together to understand it, but you do need to deliver an individual deliverable, and there's so much randomization in this that even if they made the exact same decisions as a fellow student, it wouldn't necessarily work. Their contracts will vary, supplier quality will vary, the delivery being late or on time, the quantity will vary by each student just a little bit using the same distributions. Now, what I do use for the overall practice is the 50-round maximized net worth. Okay, got a white paper that they can share. 96 turns for the competitive. 96, again, does take multiple hours. I've had a student achieve $600,000 in the profit net worth, and I was stunned because, well, I had never gotten to 600,000, finance major. And I asked him, do you want me to reveal your identity to the class? Because this is a gauntlet. This is a competitive gauntlet, the highest I've ever seen. And he said, yes, and tell them all to bring it. And so that's the kind of motivation I like to see. He was a little aggressive in his motivation, but he was very excited about that. No one actually ended up beating him because that's just an incredible net worth. As I mentioned before, what I find is interesting about the simulation is every major, to a greater or lesser degree, not every student's going to engage for 5, 10, 15 hours. That is true. But most majors at least have something they can latch onto as a comfort zone. So you have the marketing students, again, really getting into forecasting. You have the finance and accounting students really going wild in the detailed financial reports that build automatically throughout the simulation. Your supply chain students tend to be more holistic. A lot of them focus more on what they've been learning, procurement, the operations, bottleneck analysis, process analysis, and the logistics as well. I've had some information systems students try to program spreadsheets, which I recommend they do, that automate all the decisions through the entire process. Now, that's a pretty complex spreadsheet for them to make, but it's a great exercise for them to try to apply their IS skills. Human resources, as I mentioned, highly variable here as well. You have enormous differences in salaries. You also have very large differences in the skill sets that the workers bring to the table initially. Now, interestingly, you can train people to get better at each of these different areas where you can assign them: receiving and shipping, the machine operations, and the marketing side, client relations. It's fine to do the training, but it takes them out of commission, which means they're not able to actually do production. They're not actually able to do sorting and receiving logistics. It's a dangerous thing to do, only really useful in the 96-round version, and oftentimes better that you wait from period to period to get different workers, but that's something the students have to find for themselves. As far as the bidding and contracting, really wide variety of clients. You have all the way from clients who are selling the cheapest stuff they can possibly get. They're very price sensitive, moderately lead time sensitive, to extremely premium clients. They want silk. They want the highest end items you can produce, of highly varying prices, highly varying margins, and highly varying quantities, which means the students have to be very careful to understand what's their margin, what's their timeline, can they actually meet the customer demands, and what's their cost structure to have the materials to meet those customer demands. In other words, it's putting it all together. As you might have started to guess, what's really going on in the background here is much like an MRP with quality restrictions. Now, I don't actually teach MRP to my students, it's too advanced for them, but I'm putting the pieces in place that build an MRP. Many students actually recognize They need to make a spreadsheet to pay attention to those cost, lead times, and quality constraints. Receiving and procurement. This is actually one of the most dangerous zones I mentioned. So if you go in, and I'll try to use a little time here to talk about the actual simulation, bring it up, and hopefully not overheat my computer. But you have an enormous number of suppliers. Each supplier has traits. They can be a low price supplier, they can have varying degrees of quality, and they can have varying reliability on their shipping. In other words, they might or might not show up when they say. When they do show up, it might be the full shipment, it might be a partial shipment. Should you pay extra to have reliability? Depends on your strategy, which is exactly what I want the students to figure out. And I really point out to them, most of them pick up on this and say, wow, I had no idea the world is so complex. No matter how many times I say it, the world is complex. That is correct. What we also have throughout our facility, we have a receiving area here. Now, if you have a bunch of materials that aren't labeled showing up here, and you don't have the labor to sort through them, you're going to create an implicit bottleneck. You're going to have the same thing on the outbound side. You can have implicit bottlenecks because you're not sorting the outbound, packing them up, and getting them ready to go. That's something else the students take a while to recognize. I give them a whirlwind tour, much as I'm doing now, but the students really find this kind of learning in a gaming environment. This is not a raw spreadsheet where they're saying, okay, enter this number here, put this number here, then it pops out this answer here. Okay, that's what the teacher wants me to say, this answer here. They're in so much control, and they have this kind of really Sims-like, if you've played it, you'll see that the workers flail their hands out at random at times. It looks kind of silly, but the students really like that far more than just working in a typical spreadsheet test and grind environment. Production, this is near and dear to all our hearts. Actually, production is one of the simpler areas of the simulation. It's also one of the hardest to get balanced. You have to work quite diligently if you're going to add machinery, how much you're going to spend on upgrading the machinery. You have to do the break-even analysis, as I said earlier. If you're going to have the machines, you better buy them early. You better upgrade them immediately. Bottleneck analysis throughout the entire facility, as well as in production. It really is an MPS, which you can see here on my screen. It's actually making a quasi-MPS for you, showing which activities are busy at which times. You also have to have enough workers. You cannot do more than one contract at a time if you don't have a worker assigned to each contract. Balancing the labor cost is crucial here. The students struggle with that concept. The accounting and finance students fixate on it. The others tend to miss it. It is a huge component. Setup and runtime becomes a massive part again on upgrading, spending money upfront to get into the more balanced line design. Shipping and logistics, again, some hidden bottlenecks here. You've got to sort. You can do statistical quality control on your finished product here. Generally speaking, if you've bought good materials and you have upgraded your machinery, you're not going to encounter issues that require SQC here. But if the student is going for premium reputation early in the game and they want to make sure that the client's getting what they asked for, SQC is a good idea. Let's see. Missed the intro. What level? Oh, this is for the core operations. So this goes to now all 1,500, 12 to 1,500 students who go through A&M. So this is a core business required of all majors. All students have to take this. One of the reasons I like this, again, is it's so holistic that every major, every kind of student can do this. Yes, this is the intro supply chain and operations course. That is correct. So the lead time, customer satisfaction, and I actually use the Jacobs book. So all these topics that I'm bringing up here, I cover in the course. And then I say to the students, everything we've done in the entire course in some form appears in the simulation. So again, I make this the capstone of my entire semester. If we have to keep on being virtual and I can't do an in-person final, I might make this in lieu of my final exam instead of actually having yet another exam. Because if you were here this morning, you know I like to use micro-testing more and more now to create a cadence. If I'm going to have a capstone, I'd like it to be something that the students find more engaging and fun. So really why I like the simulation, and as I said before, it's what got me into Connect. It's what actually made me intrigued by switching from my more paper and pencil-based exams, my Scantrons actually, into something that was more automated. Well, it was engagement. It was getting the students interested in actually making decisions that are interlinked and not standalone, multiple choice, true, false, or spreadsheet-based questions in an online exercise. So any other questions right now before I try, and hopefully don't overheat my computer, to bring the simulation up? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click preview if I don't have anything at the moment. Can you see this now? Did it come up on the screen? I hope. Okay, click preview. Hopefully I was still logged in. Okay, good. There we go.
James, we're only seeing, or at least I'm only seeing, a gray screen. So it may just be a lag or, oh, nope. I see slides now.
Slides? Okay, but I'm bringing up the operations. Do you see in my browser, or do I need to do a different share?
Oh, you might need to do a different share. Yeah, because you might just be sharing your PowerPoints.
Let's see here. We're going to switch out share. Ha. Let's see which screen I am. It's not giving me a pre. Oh, that's you. Okay, that's right. Okay, do you see anything now?
Now we see your PowerPoint still in like your regular
right?
PowerPoint view. Oh, no, I can see it. Sorry. It's a smaller window that you've got over there. Yep.
Okay, how about now? Still working? I maximized it. Okay, excellent. Whew. I don't use WebEx, so this is, I'm a Zoom guy, and I don't like Zoom that much, so yeah. All right, so here's the actual simulation. As I said before, it'll run on a tablet actually beautifully. It doesn't overheat tablets. With my laptop, it's very intensive on the CPU because it's actually running a tablet app in the background, so it's actually emulating a tablet. Still runs just fine, but it is going to be more intensive. It also runs on a phone, but I can't use my phone to do this because it's impossible. Now here's HR. So I'm going to go in here and you're going to see we only, because it is random, on the number of people you're going to have available at any particular interval, any particular period where you're making decisions. In this case, in my screenshot, there was a guy who was $420. He had 3 stars for client relations. This guy, $400, and he's a 2-star across the board. Now in the early going, something the students need to recognize is they don't have anyone working anywhere. No positions are filled in any of your departments, which means you have a major bottleneck issue already. Receiving, oh, I like it. He just did some yoga and stretching there. So that's the Sims kind of flailing their arms around. So receiving, critical that the student recognize if you don't have anyone to do sorting of the raw materials coming in, you're not going to have anything to feed the production line. So they need to recognize that very quickly. If I had, and again, it's random how many people I have, their attributes and their costs. If I had more people, I could click the arrow and scroll through the different attributes of those people. And the other thing I can do, if I were actually engaged, I can see WebEx is having a good time with my computer here. If I were actually engaged in the simulation, I'm partway through as it resets on me. Wow, okay, WebEx, you're just messing with me now. So we can get it to, there we go. So what we're seeing here is we have a lot of financial statements and they update in real time, period by period. So we have the payroll in each department where I assign people, and I can move people from department to department. I can assign high-skilled people as a temporary flex worker across departments, but there is a delay in getting them. Of course, there's a delay. They have to be partially trained or they have to have some sort of remedial work to understand what they're going to be doing. So it's not instantaneous. I cannot do it in the current period. It's only for coming. The people will transfer department to department. Generally, you don't want to transfer people around departments if you can help it, just as you don't want to do that in the real world. Now, if bidding and contracting, a lot of people in here, so we have a lot going on. We have our work requests. Now, one of the things I show the students right away is you better start learning how to sort, because right now, your reputation is mud. Nobody knows you. You're a startup business. Nobody wants to buy from you. They don't trust you. So what you want to do is sort by reputation. The other thing that you have to pay attention to, and of course my accounting and finance students are obsessed with this, is I want to make lots of money. So they're offering me $18.50 a unit, but I have to understand what goes into making that product. And the product will have varying elements that have to go in, which has different machinery requirements. Also has different weights of the material, which increases or decreases shipping cost. You want to place a bid? Here we go. What can I change? I can try to charge more. If I'm going to do that, I better make it faster, but it depends on the client. They have different attributes in what they value, and the students have to work through figuring out which clients like which attributes. We'll close that since I don't really have time to do a run of the simulation. The other thing that the students do need to do, and they need to do this very early on, is they need to get their forecasts in place. They need to understand, what am I going to do in terms of each season? So it's $10 out of a $10,000 account balance. The student should realize very quickly, I just tell them outright, you need to buy all your forecasts because it's crucial to understand what your strategy is going to be throughout your simulation. You see, you have a top product. What that means is multiple of your clients are going to want this product. Now, they might have different quality requirements, quantity requirements, bids, lead times. All of that varies just as it does in the real world, which again, I love because it brings out what I say into a much more action-oriented, as the mid-level executive from the HEB, it's a grocery store company here, said, my goodness, this actually emulates what I deal with day in and day out every day of my career, which is why I like it as well. The clients, you can see their attributes here. You have some who are low product value. They're not going to give you high margin. They generally don't order a lot, which means they're never going to make you a large amount of profit. And, well, low price, that's what they like. That's their dominant attribute. You've got others who really care about lead time. Others will care about quality more than anything else. And then you've got the products themselves. And I want to see if I can get that one to come up here. Notice that the products, you have different materials, and you can specialize in a material, which is often wise as long as you can maintain the quality requirements and the other attributes your clients want. You can get economies of scale in the material, something else I leave the students to find. You can do denim, khaki, nylon, silk. Actually, silk's normally the highest profit, and I hope the students notice that. Many do. You have holding costs. You have average estimated sale prices, which also have a variance based on the contracts and the clients you serve. Seasonal demand. Some of them are for-season products. Neckties don't really change, although right now with the COVID season, I don't see a whole lot of neckties going on in the world. But when a non-COVID time, neckties are a pretty common thing that people wear. It has associated production tasks, and not all products. As you can see, we have cutting, sewing, and boxing. That's it for a simple product. For the tie, we have cutting, sewing, printing, and boxing. So that changes the production processes requirements. Everything in the simulation is interlinked, which again, I really enjoy watching the students struggle with the idea that the real world is complex. Bidding and contracting. This is where my finance accounting students go wild. They're like, how much did I make? Exactly what did I do? How many contracts did I complete? Well, I haven't done any in here, but what have I done? I want those financials to come out, and they really get into that heavily. Now you have a little shortcut system here too. So down here in the bottom, you can go to any department by clicking a shortcut. In the procurement and receiving, tremendous amount of information, tremendous number of decisions. Again, you have low price. Okay, you save money on a per unit basis. Great. However, this is a very dangerous vendor to use if students try. They better have a lot of safety stock because the reliability is terrible. The products often do not arrive on time. They can be 1 or 2 periods late. Random quantities arrive. Sometimes not even the entire order arrives. Their quality is not great. You have others who are extremely reliable. In fact, their variance is almost nil. You have price, not bad. You have quality, medium. Depends on the contracts you're going for as far as the quality you're going to demand to meet the customer satisfaction requirements. I oftentimes shop by material rather than by supplier, and I just go through understanding which suppliers have which attributes. I can shop by material, looking for the right cost, quantity, and lead time. You then make a delivery schedule, and it's a very nice, handy tool. What do I have coming when? Because students quickly lose track, especially if they use a lot of different materials, again, just like MRP. And you have the history of what you've done with each of the vendors, whether they're actually reliable, not reliable, sent you the quantity you wanted, or didn't. Did they actually do what you told them to do? Now, in our department proper, we have all of these different pallets. You have a receiving pallet here, which is the raw materials. They're not sorted. You can't use them yet until they go on these pallets in here. We have wool, nylon, and cotton right now pre-positioned at the start of the simulation. Until you get those materials that you can't do anything with them. Production process, again, we have the paint palette, we have the ironing and the imprinting, you have the embroidery, and you have the ability to create colored patterns in the area where we have our machine for the pressing. The pressing is used with a lot of products. The simulation gives a nice look. If you want to make these kinds of products, you need this machine. If you're going to buy the machine, do you want to upgrade it or not? How much you're going to use it? You can sell them later at a huge cost and a loss. Your master production scheduling, that's right here. You need workers to have more than one contract. Finally, as I think I am low on time here, shipping and logistics, very similar to receiving. You have to sort through the products. You have a lot of choices to make here. Are you going to send small packages, partial shipments? Not a good idea, but if you're late, you might want to do that to meet some of the customers' demand not to take a reputation hit. Large package or freight. All of these things, of course, as we know, based on the speed you choose, change your break bulk rates, they change your economies of scale, they change your fixed and variable costs. The earlier you are, the more you're in control of your lead time, the more you can save here as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is the half an hour. Is that correct? All right. So I will minimize my screen here and go back into the slides. Any questions from the chat that only pops up on my screen briefly that I can address very, very rapidly?
You have gotten people extremely excited about this product. I will just say that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I love it personally. I don't say love about teaching materials in general, but as I said, I would not have put this at my soon to be 1,200, currently, but 600 students a year right now. I take only one semester a year with a massive section. This for me is my passion project for them. I actually give them almost 6 weeks of practice time, and I guide them through it and I push them on it. And then I have a 1 week capstone, you're competing, get ready. And I tell you, the passions are really high for some students. And I will give one cautionary note. Other students get really upset that they can't figure it out. Well, I tell them, welcome to competing in the real world. If you think that when you go in the real world, you're not going to compete on these things and having the knowledge to make decisions, good luck going forward. So it's kind of a wake-up call for some of the students that it's not easy to actually run business decisions.
Okay. A lot of people have been asking about contacting you, and I think that's great, but I'd like for them to go through their rep so that we can make sure that your hours are tracked as well, because otherwise you're going to be bombarded with saying, hey, James, you know, and
okay.
I think that's great, but I just want to make sure that everyone is going through their representative, and that would be a great way to connect with you. And so you're going to be busy, James, sorry.
All right. Well, let me see if I can show one thing here. If I actually, so just for fun, and I know I'm over time here. Let me actually get a contract started just because I think it's kind of fun to see in action. So I'm going to go ahead and make my full contract. Priority 1, I don't have anything else to prioritize. Okay, I don't know if you can hear it, but here you go. The boxes are rolling off the line. Press is working. So it is a video game kind of feel. And it's corny. It's like if you've heard the goal on tape, it's the corny background noises, the factory fake noises. I love it because it's a more immersive feel.
Excellent. Another instructor asked about, can I play the game alone as an instructor? I've never been a game player, so I think I'd better get familiar with it first. Absolutely. And I think that's what you did, right, James?
Yeah, I spent over a dozen hours, and it was kind of weird. I played video games in my past for fun, and then I actually ended up playing this for 4 hours one afternoon and didn't move the entire time. I just sat there going, I must win. And then I realized 4 hours had gone by, and I went, that's not right. No, I shouldn't be that engaged in this game.
Excellent. Lots of questions coming in that I'm answering feverishly.
So the challenge you have, so one note is that you are competing against tens of thousands, I believe, of students who have taken this before. The grading scale, you might have to tweak. What I do is I use a multiplier of extra credit to really engage the students for those who are a little behind in the course, because this is capstone. I use a 1.25 multiplier. So if I have 100 points, you can get up to 125 if you really go for it. And boy, do they engage at that point. Now, of course, emails come in. I can't figure it out. And then I can go into the system and see, did you practice? And if I see they didn't, I go, well, that's what practice was for. That's what you were supposed to do. So.
Fantastic. One last question. You mentioned the goal by Goldratt. Do you use it in class?
Yeah. So, Elliot Goldratt, the 1980s book, he actually made a wonderful book on tape, and it has voice actors, and it has fake machinery sounds and fake car sounds, and it's really good. I actually have students listen to it rather than read the book because they actually like it because it's play acting. It's like a terrible, corny, awful narrated novel. So yeah, and the goal, of course, applies here. The bottleneck analysis, scrum buffer rope, all of that's embedded in here too. My core ops course is too remedial for the goal to really be a focal part, but with honors, I put the goal in, and it really helps them see what's going on.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, James. I am going to take control of the the controls again, and then we're going to have a quick break and then meet again at 4 o'clock. And I'm excited to announce our next DFC, Leslie Suckup, who's going to walk us through many of the digital features in Connect, including practice operations. And she won't obviously go as in-depth as you just did, James, but we are going to have a quick break. And thank you, James. That was amazing. And there's a million questions here. They're going to keep you really busy.
Great.
Watch for some
Normally in my class, my mission is to prevent questions and have it all laid out ahead of time. Oh, well. Too bad.
Well, too bad. You didn't do that this time.
Right.
Thank you.